It's the top of August, and the garden is looking sexier than ever.
Oh, Pittsburgh soil.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to Pittsburgh Home Garden. It has certainly been a while since I've spoken to the old YouTube audience. I hope all of you have had a wonderful summer, very prosperous, very fruitful summer thus far. I have been dealing with a broken computer and a couple of lost episodes. That's why you haven't heard from me. But we are here at the top of August, and I have to say this garden has never looked better. It's sexier than it's ever been, and it's 5 years older, just aging like fine wine. You understand? So we are going to start off this wonderful tour with the first half of my brand new tomato beds. I have re-engineered the yard with 3 layers of animal protection that I will get into later. We don't need to brag about it here at the beginning because I am standing next to some beautiful full-grown tomatoes. This is a deep little thing. Like, it's kind of hard to see on camera, but this, can you even see me, son? I am in a forest of tomatoes, and it's the same thing on the other side. So on this side, I actually have all of my cherry tomatoes. This bed is filled with a few yellow perfections. These are the kind of like small yellow pear looking cherry tomatoes. I also have my Black Kim tomatoes here in this bed, and the Black Kims are a very specific type of tomato that is actually filled with a lot more antioxidants than your average tomato. I believe I've had them before, but I've certainly never grown them here in the garden. So I actually am like super excited to see what those look like. But the vast majority of the cherry tomatoes here are actually my orange currants, which are another kind of cherry tomato that I've never really had. Of course, they got that orange skin, and I really plan on making almost like an orange type of tomato sauce, that I can truly enjoy over the winter time. I definitely put a huge focus on all the tomatoes this year just because last year they were terrible. So I want as many tomatoes as I possibly can get. And the main thing I can do to help myself accomplish that goal of actually getting tons of tomatoes for the rest of the season is keeping these babies nice and healthy. And that is by removing a lot of this excess foliage that is certainly not needed. If you are a longtime viewer, I'm sure you will know that last year my tomatoes were terrible and they got early blight, and it's mainly because I allowed the disease to start at the bottom of the plant and work itself up the plant, and I just didn't jump on it quick enough. So this year I have been removing so many stems, suckers, undergrowth. This is probably the most pampered my tomatoes have been, since I've been gardening in this yard, and it's been paying off. I am seeing, still very, very green growth, no type of disease, showing yet. But again, we are, at the end of the season, and we're going to be coming up on a very weird fall here in Zone 6. I'm sure if you are around like Zone 5, maybe Zone 6B, you will know that our falls can be, kind of marshy. They can be either very dry, they can be very wet, they can have 50-degree nights, they can have 80-degree nights. So, to basically fend off any disease through all of that, the best thing you can do at this point is actually take off, just some of this like undergrowth that isn't getting a lot of sunlight. It's really not doing too much. And, on your more extreme examples, you're going to start to see tiny holes in the leaves, and they just start to look very rough. They're not doing anything else for the plant. They've done their job in the plant's early life, but at this point, it is certainly okay to take these babies off. And here we are on the other side of the tomato bed. I actually had an amazing idea at the beginning of the spring, and I love seeing that it came into fruition. It was adding the gate at the very top of all of my stands. That way I only have to use 2 gates to grow everything vertically. And this baby has been working out great. I was kind of worried about, a little bit of tension, once these babies start to grow and they start to put on weight, kind of causing more sag than what I want. But this thing has been great. The whole plan was to have tomato vines, stretching in between beds. Right now, all I have is my good old bean vine doing the job. But you know what? That's totally fine. I might grab some cucumbers to put in here, but again, we're coming up on the last 100 days. If you plant anything, too hardy, it's basically an experiment. And we're all about experiments here. But the varieties that I have over here are actually mainly my homegrown beefsteak tomatoes and my homegrown Cherokee tomatoes. These seeds were actually some of the only seeds I came to this house with, and I feel like I've been neglecting them over the last couple years. I really wanted to put a focus on, just the things that I actually do love to cook. I do love to eat, and there is a deeper connection once you start to, save your own seeds and put those babies back in the ground the next year, or, after 5 years. These seeds were 5 years old, and they came with me from my very first garden in my old house. So to see these babies grow is certainly sexy. And I'm going to put a focus on a lot of other plants in the yard as far as saving their seeds at the end of the season. And of course, once you start to save your own seeds, those seeds do better in the climate. This year, I actually planted everything so late in the garden because our May season is so iffy. But with having homegrown seeds, next year, I'm certainly going to, push the bar. I'm going to be putting things out in early May and see, how they live. As long as your succession showing, try to say that. As long as you're succession sowing, you can do all the experiments you like. Just make sure you have a little bit of harvest at the end of the season. And we'll be right back after these special messages.
To the goddess that know a baby. Did they like coloring? These seeds. Well, now it's a new book from PhD. That's right. Pittsburgh Home Garden presents 1, 2, 3's in the garden. Yeah, 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 yeah. Pittsburgh Home Garden presents 1, 2, 3's in the garden. And since the adults want a colored event, there's an adult coloring book in the mix. Gardening in abstract, is it? Gardening in abstract, is it?
Get your Pittsburgh Home Garden coloring books today, available on Amazon. So right behind that beautifully manicured tomato bed, we are inside of the greenhouse. That it has certainly been, giving me all the growth that I've been looking for, all the growth that I've actually been expecting. The greenhouse has always been the safest space. And this year, I really put a focus on, just kind of working with my yard. Stop trying to put plants where I know they'll be unsafe. So here in the safe ass greenhouse, I have all of my melons, and these babies are doing very well. I believe starting at the back, I have my cantaloupe. I have a good amount of muskmelon, maybe about 4 or 5 plants of muskmelon. Certainly a melon that I've never grown here. I've had it before. Delicious melon, of course. In front of that, I have my orange watermelon, which have been doing very well. These are certainly the second tallest plants. One thing I do constantly need to keep up on is actually stringing everything up. You will be surprised by how much daily growth some of these vine plants actually do get. So, the one struggle that I've had is, just really tangling of tendrils and vines and things like that. Right behind me, I actually have a good amount of bottle gourds, which are something that I've never really grown. I think you kind of use them more for decoration during the, Halloween season. I'm going to see how they taste as well. Actually, behind those, I have some zucchini plants that I plan on growing vertically. This plan of a vertical garden has worked out the best. It's one of the reasons why, this season has been so different from my last seasons, because everything is safe. That's pretty much it. My biggest issue has been safety. And, it's just, again, placement, working with the garden, understanding like things like my carrots. My carrots I've always kind of struggled with, and it's because I've put them in places where they just were not going to do well. And I've found that, keeping them inside of my grow bag so they don't have, much competition, I can actually control and transplant the carrots. That's a future video. Look out for that. I'm able to actually get pretty good growth. This is a weird baby here, but I know I have a monster hanging out over here. Let's see how it looks. Ooh, look at that. And I'm getting tangled up in a bitter melon tendril. Look at this carrot, baby. Damn, son. I never get carrots. And this year, I am getting more carrots than I actually ever have. Let's break off just a little bit. And let's get a good... nice warm garden carrot. A little bit of dirt. A little bit of Joe Dirte. Don't hurt nobody, baby.
Joe Dirte? Don't you mean Joe Dirt?
And here inside of my raised bed within the greenhouse, I have a bunch of more vines. Everything has been going crazy. And as much as I love the vertical growth here in the greenhouse, there has always been the same issue year after year. And it's had to do with pollination of all the melons. And last year I had a bunch of cucumbers and, just things that actually need, that really hard, insect to flower pollination. And it's because I usually don't have a lot of pollinators in here. So this year I went ahead and added some morning glories around because they're going to be able to, follow up right behind all of the plants. Of course, morning glories grow incredibly fast. And I wanted them to be able to attract those pollinators in the morning, of course, when they're blooming, because I seem to always find myself getting, just like unripened, unpollinated, tiny little melons like this. It will start off very well. You'll see a little melon and then the bottom begins to die off. And it actually never puts on any growth. And that's because it hasn't received proper pollination. So I have my kiwi plant actually following quickly behind any of the plants that are reaching the top. The kiwi has certainly been going crazy this year. Love to see all the growth, but one day I would like to see a kiwi. I've had that baby for about 4, maybe about 3 years now. And, more and more growth every season. A lot of the wood tends to get a lot harder, that survives over the wintertime. And I imagine all of that hardwood is actually going to give me the fruits, once they eventually come. But, for now, it's all about just maintaining things in here, including my ox heart tomato. Last year, I was very excited about my ox hearts and I didn't get any. So this year I put them inside of the greenhouse, just to make sure that they're safe. And I'm actually starting to see, wonderful green growth here in that classic ox heart type of shape. I don't know what I'm going to do with these specifically. I don't know if they're better at like pasting or cutting, but I just love to see them. And right behind me, I have my bitter melon and cucamelon. These are all, just vines and tendrils right now. Nothing crazy to see, except for the fact that I'm not keeping up with it. I actually need to buy another gate and put that on top. That way things can just like weave in and out, and it's a lot easier to kind of train all of your trellis business once they're actually on like a grate. So here, right outside of the greenhouse, I built up a sketchy ass table just to hold a bunch of grow bags. I have donned this part of my yard the potato alley because I have 7 grow bags here, all filled up with potatoes. Historically, I have had a hard time with potatoes because it was always one of those things where they were just like not protected enough in the yard. And of course, I didn't want to put the potatoes in my actual protected beds because I don't really want to disturb that soil when I'm harvesting. So grow bags are certainly the best option I have found for the potatoes, especially here in Zone 6. They do very well because these black bags actually soak in so much heat. There have been days where I've come out here, I don't even know how to stand. There are days when I have come out here just to water, and I've, touched the soil, and I realize how warm that is, and it seems to be very good for all the potatoes. I actually have a bit of an experiment going on here where I have single potatoes in these 5-gallon bags. Over here, I have 2 potatoes in 5-gallon bags, and I have a nice big fat 15-gallon bag on the other side that has a mystery amount. There is a future video coming out on that, but all I can say about these potatoes is they gotta have them. Because goddamn, it has been a rough journey for such an easy plant to grow here. I know I should have had a bunch of potatoes, and the season seems to be giving me what I thought I should always get from these babies. Well, I knew this bed would be coming up next, so I decided to do a nice little carrot harvest just because I actually have run out inside of the house. Please use your carrots, eat carrots. They are so healthy for you. I might even try juicing them, but that is all after that I do a slight little harvest and cleanup here in the Mother Bertha bed. My Brassica bed has been doing fairly well. I am just starting to come up on a time of year where the insect issue is, becoming more prevalent. This bed is wrapped in a 360 insect netting. I actually added one to the very top this year, and I certainly have seen a decrease in the amount of bugs that I get in here. The one problem has been the white moths that come in here and they lay the eggs inside of, the sides of the plants in the middle of the shoots and the stem. They have been finding their way inside of this bed. And it's just because I have holes in the netting. They're very crafty little f***s. I can't stand them. And I know that they are causing the problems that I'm actually starting to see right now with a lot of holes inside of my kale leaves. This is a very familiar thing because, a couple summers ago, I actually lost an entire bed to, aphids and different type of insects, and, it hurts. But when you are gardening year after year, you gain that experience, and, you also gain the knowledge of when to freak out, not to freak out. This isn't a huge issue right now. I have gotten a lot of growth in here. And of course, we're coming up on the, muggy days of summer with August, expecting to be, very hot here in beautiful Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So I know my brassicas are going to struggle, just a bit, maybe for another month before things kind of cool down. We go into the fall, and that's when they really start to flourish. Here on my right side, I actually have my Brussels sprouts. I can't be prouder because I have actually not gotten many Brussels sprouts here in the yard. They seem to start every year, and mostly because of animal pressure, they don't end up making it to the end of the season. But these babies are growing nice and tall. All of the actual main stems are nice and thick. They are standing strong. I've had some bad winds that have knocked down some of my poles, and these babies have bounced right back. Of course, they're starting to have a bit of animal pressure. As I'm looking around, I see 2 slugs on the back of this leaf here. I certainly need to come in here with some more neem oil, and just kind of spray everything down. After I turn off the camera, I'm going to come in here and actually do, a bit of weeding, a bit of weed whacking here right in front of the camera. I have all my collards. I am not seeing any of the heads start to form, but I am seeing a good amount of pressure and a lot of lower leaves that are laying on the ground, which certainly isn't good for the plant. This will be my first year, hopefully getting a nice, collared head. I really want a nice fat collared head so I can make a cool thumbnail with, you know what I'm saying, and go in the house and smash. But I got to make sure I keep that plant alive. So of course, the same way you would do with your tomatoes and any other plant with your brassicas, you want to make sure any of those lower leaves that are touching the ground, make sure you just get them all. All right, so we are actually running out of sunlight, which certainly isn't best for the camera, but it is best for a nice mint harvest. I have an enormous bed of mint that keeps growing year by year. I actually at one time thought I could plant anything else in this actual space, and the mint said hell no. So it has taken over, and it is absolutely massive. And within its growth, it's gotten very long. It's actually started to put out its flowers at the top, which I absolutely love. And so do the bees. When I tell you there's usually a million bees over here, I would have gotten stung 10 times by now, and I'm still not the safest at this point, but a lot of the bees have, gone back to the hive or wherever the hell they come from. So of course it is actually a perfect time to collect a good amount of this mint. There is very small mint plants underneath that, struggling to come up just because they can't get sunlight. So even though I am harvesting and kind of taking away my main pollinator patch in the yard, which is something I'm, a little scared of, I know that that was a bee right there. So very quick tip, if you have a large bed of herbs that you plan on, kind of dry hanging, one thing you can actually do is you want to take your string, and when you have it cut, you can go ahead, find the midpoint, put your finger in there, and then what you're going to do is actually go around the base of a large area of your plants, pull this string through the other side, and you'll have a nice tight wind that you can just clip here at the bottom. It's a rough explanation, but hopefully you can tell in this video. And just like that, you can have, a nice bundle of herbs for you to go ahead and dry hang. I'm actually going to put the vast majority of this mint in some oil, and I'm going to infuse it so I can have mint oil for all of my seafood delicacies. See you tomorrow. Well, it is another beautiful day here in Pittsburgh Home Garden, and we are going to start this day out at the old garlic patch. Because I lost some footage due to my computer breaking, I actually can't show you the amazing footage of me harvesting all of my wonderful garlic, but I can totally tell you that there were trumpets in the sky. Pretty sure like doves came out of nowhere. It was a beautiful day. I have had this garlic kind of outside just curing for the last maybe like 2.5 weeks, maybe a little bit too long outside. They are certainly well dried and certainly ready for storage, but the aesthetic of drying garlic underneath a patio is super cool, and I couldn't bring myself to actually cut them down. But now that I have this patch over here empty, it's kind of filling up with weeds, I'm gonna go ahead and actually put in a ton of garlic. But first, I need to actually figure out how many onions I have in this patch. Believe it or not, there are onions here. I did a really terrible job keeping them up on the actual weeding. There's a lot of weeding in my yard this year, and it's because I have so many new spaces just being used for one single thing. So it's just like fresh ground, and when you have fresh ground that you're dealing with, you're going to get a lot more weeds during that first year, and I haven't done a good job of keeping up on it. So we are going to dig out some onions here, then I'm going to clear the space, get this garlic in real quick. So I got about, 120, 140. I didn't really get an exact count of how many garlic bulbs that I just put in the ground, but I'm really hoping, those babies do extremely well over the next fall and upcoming winter, because I want all the garlic that I could possibly get. I also said at the beginning of the year that I wanted as many onions as I could possibly get, and that didn't come, true. I set up an onion bed down here. This is the second onion bed, and all these babies are going to grow over the next 45 to 60 days. Still give me a good amount of growth, but for some reason in my head, I just feel like I should have 1,000 onions. I sow these onion seeds, and what happens is I maybe put them out there a little bit too early. Maybe next year I come up with some type of, shade system, because I think the sun just ends up killing all of my very young onions in leeks. I don't even think I have any leeks this year. So, definitely something to think about for next year. Of course, I am happy with, my first harvest of the onions. As much as I would like to take these babies in the house, throw them in the fridge, you want to treat your onion harvest just like you treat your garlic harvest. So you want to leave them outside just so they cure a bit, just because when you pull them from the ground, they are wet. Not just the soil, but the actual, fruit bulb itself. They are fairly wet, and if you bring them inside the house and put them in like a cabinet or so, they will, certainly mold a lot easier. So because these are long day onions, I'm going to leave them outside to cure, and that variety should store up to at least about 6 months. I don't know if I'll have enough to make it 6 months, because I use a lot of onions here in Pittsburgh Home Garden Kitchen. But, I gotta be happy with it. And we are going to finish out this good old August tour here in the big baby bed right next to my wonderful corn, son. What have I been telling yins? No. I'm so excited about this damn corn, man. At the beginning of the season, in the video that ended up getting lost on my old computer, I said this. No, I feel good about this protection this year, and I'm not even going to make a big deal about it. I'm not going to say anything. I have no declaring statement at all. This corn is just going to grow. It's going to grow just like I grow my peas, like I grow my tomatoes, like I grow my peppers. It's just another plant that is going to do well in this garden this year. Say it, and it shall be true, baby. Oh, and how true it was. I really just put an emphasis on all of the protection, and the protection has been standing up, even though there is totally something still getting inside of this bed. The more I look around, the more I see that all of my morning glory heads have actually been bitten off, oddly enough. So maybe the corn was just put in at a great time to where it was a little bit too tall. I'm now scared looking around, because I'm like, oh, I need to order another gate, which I will right after this video. But for now, let's just admire what I got going on here. I have some Silver Queen corn. I have my peaches and cream corn. And I have some Sweet Early that actually didn't do well at all. Like, the average stalk size is only this big. And I can't imagine this is a full-grown corn. Actually, let's open it up. See if there's anything in here. All right, so there's all little baby kernels. Little tiny baby kernels in there. But this is the Sweet and Early. Not the best, but man, after the journey I've had in this garden, I am thankful for any amount of corn that I get. What a glorious year. Of course, none of this is ready for harvest. I believe you want to wait till the tendrils, the kind of hairy bits on the outside of the cobs. I think you need to wait until those are completely dry. They actually feel like very wet, very stuck together right now. I don't know. This is my first time really getting to this stage. So I'm just going to leave these on the plants. Of course, I am going to order another gate just to make sure that we can actually get to a harvest. I can't be too happy yet because I am not harvesting, but God damn, it has been a journey, and I'm very happy to be able to show it off. And for the longtime viewers, just keep trying. That's all you got to do. I actually have a little bit of damage out here because of the weight of these goddamn cobs. So I need to come out here with some bamboo stakes, and so I can, just kind of equalize all of the weight, make sure these babies aren't bending over on the other plants too much, because then that can add kind of a cascading effect. It's almost in the same way that my peppers are actually starting to show. Here I have a nice full bed of peppers. There are probably about 6 or 7 varieties in here. I will put them on screen because I can't think of all the names right now, because my mind is actually looking at broken stems. Oh man, it is not the best. Too many big peppers. Actually, I see a big monster back there. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Look at this big old monster pepper. I believe this is the Hungarian pepper. Just because its shape, I usually stuff these type of things. And, it wouldn't be a problem. Of course, I want to have all the pepper growth that I possibly can have. But, the plants aren't that thick right now. I still have some pretty skinny plants. They've been putting on, a lot of height. And I think that I may have, planted these a little bit too close. Now that I'm sitting here looking at it, I did have a nice full bed, but I had other plans for that part of the bed that just haven't worked out yet. So I did kind of squish my pepper plants together, and now I fear that they're not getting enough sunlight, and they're also not receiving enough pollination. I'm seeing a lot of dead little flower leaves, which means they're not getting the pollinators. I have 2 big sunflowers here in the bed that are just taking their time opening up and actually showing that nice bulb that it will attract all the pollinators that I need. So once I get the gate in here, maybe my morning glories will begin to grow a bit more. That'll bring pollinators in, at least during the morning time. But we'll check back in a month. For right now, I'm going to do a nice little harvest. You certainly want to take off your early peppers, because if you leave them on there, the pepper will actually start to go yellow and then red, and then the plant will believe that it's, done its job. It's spread its seed, essentially. So you're certainly going to want to take off your nice young peppers, because those will do you well, for cooking. You can eat a pepper at whatever stage, green, red, whatever. But get them off of especially your very young plants, your very kind of skinny plants, because there's so much energy going to form those peppers that, for the next 60 days of growth, it won't put its focus on actually giving you as many peppers as, what one would want. All right, well, I think with my nice little early season pepper harvest and the harvest of everything else around the yard, I'm going to call it a wrap for this video. As always, I would like to thank everybody for watching. If you would like to support the video, please grab a coloring book. Man, it took me a while to get actual proofs that I like. These were supposed to come out in June, but it actually took 3 to 4 weeks for me to get an actual proof that, I liked of both books. I think your kids will certainly enjoy, 1, 2, 3s in the garden, especially if they like the original ABCs. I want to thank everybody again last year for buying the original book. You certainly have given me inspiration to, of course, create a new children's book and, of course, a new adult coloring book that was made, purely just based on the feedback that I got from all the ends. Man, I cannot be happier with this support that I've gotten over the last couple of years. I've really tailored my mind to, next year I really want to treat Pittsburgh Home Garden like a real thing. But, of course, thank you for watching. That's going to do it for me. I'm going to take all these lovely vegetables in the house, make myself something really nice to eat tonight, as you should yourself. So thank you once again. And as always, until next time, I'll be here gardening.
Oh, Pittsburgh soil,